I'm going to touch on this story with AOC real quick because we defended AOC last week. Now we're going to say what are you doing? Because earlier this week I was really proud of AOC. She and the squad, they blocked the Iron Dome. AOC and the squad force House Dems to spike $1 billion for Israel's Iron Dome from the spending bill. They blocked the Iron Dome funding for Israel for being in the reconciliation bill, right? They did a great job of being like, why is a wealthy, developed country getting $1 billion from America for their own military? Spend on your own military. You don't need our money. I'm not against, if Israel wants the Iron Dome, great, pay for it. So the squad did a great job of saying, no, we're not going to do that. And so what happened? Bipartisanship kicked in. Bipartisanship. This is another instance of bipartisanship. House approves $1 billion for Israel's Iron Dome defense system. The House on Thursday easily approved a bill to provide funding for Israel's Iron Dome after it was removed from a separate bill to prevent a government shutdown and suspend the nation's borrowing limit. The $1 billion in funding allocated for aerial defense system had initially been included the must-pass legislation the House considered earlier in the week, but the provision was removed from the final version to appease a group of progressives who said they would sink the legislation unless the funding was struck from it. The final vote was 420 to 9, with 2 voting present. 8 Democrats and 1 Republican voted against the bill. Democratic Rep. Rashida Tlaib tweeted her disapproval of the funding ahead of the vote, stating Wednesday, I plan on casting a no vote. We must stop enabling Israel's human rights abuses and apartheid government. Democratic Rep. Ilhan Omar expressed her disapproval of the funding, tweeting Thursday, given the human rights violations in Gaza, Sheikh, Jarrah, and the ever-going settlement expansion, we should not be ramming through a last-minute $1 billion increase in military funding for Israel without any accountability. Omar and Tlaib are the first 2 Muslim women to serve in Congress, and Tlaib is the Congress's first Palestinian-American woman to serve in the House. But some Democrats were frustrated when the provision was stripped from the original bill. I'm incredulous right now, Representative Dean Phillips, a Jewish Democrat from Minnesota, told CNN. What does that mean? Am I insane? So what? You're Jewish. And? What does that have to do with us giving $1 billion to a foreign government? So what? You're Jewish. And? Democratic Rep. Alyssa Slotkin, who serves on the Armed Services Committee, characterizes opposition from members of her own party to this funding as devoid of substance and irresponsible, except they gave it substance. That was entirely substance. This is devoid of substance. Your counter argument was devoid of substance. This is rhetoric. They had specific substance. Why would you publish something that's obviously ridiculous on its face? Weird. When Tlaib went to the floor to voice her opposition to the bill, she called the funding absurd and unjustifiable, referred to Israel as an apartheid regime, which she said were not her words, but the words of Human Rights Watch. I firmly believe our country must oppose selling weapons to anyone, anywhere, without human rights law compliance, Tlaib said on Thursday. Democratic Rep. Ted Deutch of Florida, who is Jewish, abandoned his prepared speech to respond to Tlaib. So I know this guy. This is the Parkland rep, by the way. Ted Deutch, I know this guy. He's originally from Pennsylvania. Feels bad, man. But he's the Parkland. He's originally from PA, but he lives in Florida now, and he's the Parkland High School rep. So this guy's like kind of a famous. He's like a second tier, third tier as far as like known. If you're a politics freak. Anyway, he abandoned his prepared speech to respond to Tlaib. I cannot allow one of my colleagues to stand on the floor of the House of Representatives and label the Jewish Democratic State of Israel an apartheid state. I reject it, Deutsch said. If you believe in saving lives, Israeli lives, and Palestinian lives, I say to my colleague who just besmirched our ally, that you will support this legislation. Okay, so I have a question here. How can it be a Jewish state if there are non-Jewish people, a Jewish democratic state if there are non-Jewish people living there? Under occupation without any vote. How is that democratic? I'm confused. Given the narrow margins between the two parties in the House, Democrats can only afford to lose 3 votes if this bill comes down to party line vote. But since so many Republicans came out in opposition to Democrats' decision to strip the provision from the House bill earlier in the week, Democrats might not need full support within their own party to pass the bill. This decision was political, not tactical. Democrats abandoned our ally to appease pro-BDS far-left radicals who run their party. So AOC initially voted against it, but then she changed her vote to present. Now, it was going to pass whether she voted present or not. If she voted no, it was passing. If she voted present, it's passing. It made no fucking difference. Belly Alive, thank you for the tier 1 sub. But it was important that she vote no, because it was about sending a message and beginning the path away from just mindlessly giving Israel money with no accountability whatsoever, no matter what crimes they commit, no matter how many times they're condemned by the world community, including all of our allies, for their human rights violations. AOC voting president on the, and this is what I tweeted, AOC voting president on the Iron Dome was objectively a bad decision. She fumbled what would have been a positive news story about her and the squad's political courage, because they blocked it from being included in the reconciliation bill. I'm sorry, it was the must-pass bill. I made an error. It was the must-pass bill. But the point is, into a story about flip-flopping dumb. And somebody said, from what I could tell from others speaking on the matter online, it may have something to do with her district getting redrawn to include a bunch of the local Jewish population. And then I said, if the voters are the type of people who vote based on something like the Iron Dome vote, she ain't winning them over with a present vote. Just indefensible. And what I mean by that is, if you're a single issue, I vote for you if you support Israel maximally, and if you have any disagreement with the Israeli state, I'm voting against you. Voting present on that bill is the same as voting no to those people. You're not winning them over by voting present. You have to vote yes if you want them to support you. And they probably won't, because even if she voted yes on this bill, she's criticized Israel before. Those pro-Israeli single-issue voters are never voting for AOC. Just dumb. Frustrating. Frustrating L. No good reason to vote present. Could have been a positive story. Now she has a voted present and makes everyone mad. I'm not happy. The people who are slovenly supporting Israel are not happy. She isolated herself for no good reason. Present votes are loser votes. And the one thing I do want to do is I want to give credit to the people who voted no. Cori Bush, Carson, Andre Carson, okay. Chuy Garcia, leftist. Cori Bush, Garcia, leftist. Massey is the Republican. I think Thomas Massey is like a weirdo freak libertarian. Marie Newman, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib. So I have a question for you, chat. Almost every single one of these people is a Justice Democrat. Mike, you don't get it. Pelosi was yelling at her, so she had to vote present. What the AOC got dressed down by Pelosi? Wow. She didn't stand up for herself. You can see her go up. I think this is her.
Okay. Yeah. On this vote, the yeas are 420, the nays are 9, with 2 recorded as present, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the Israeli lobby is very powerful within New York state politics. But I wanted to show you the people that actually stood up and just point out to you that they're all Justice Democrats. And the one that surprised me the most was Marie Newman. Now, I've always been a strong supporter of Marie Newman because she was primaried one of the most vile right-wing Democrats, probably the worst Democrat in the entire House caucus, and she did it as a Justice Democrat Green New Deal, Medicare for all, and she's a white lady. She like, if she could summon the courage to vote against it, what is wrong with you, AOC? What is wrong with you? Why did Bowman vote yes? Well, that's a problem as well. I looked at it this way. She didn't vote yes. She's got a bigger career aspiration. Could do more good for a higher office. No. There are certain things that when you do them, they are a mistake. And if your argument is, well, she was calculating. Well, f her calculations. We got to make her change her calculations. Because if we want things to be better, which she makes a terrible vote like that, we have to stand up and criticize that. This is not wearing a dress. This is not, she didn't agree with Jimmy Dore. This is a bad vote. And here, that's what we care about. And she's not going to win pro-Israeli freaks. She has to be pointed out. Like, hey, you could do cringe stuff online. I'll defend you being cringe every single day. But the moment you make bad votes, you're going to get criticized by me. So, you know, at the end of the day, I am not going to be like, oh, this is the last straw with AOC. She didn't vote yes. Like Bowman, that was pretty bad. I just think that was a huge L. And an unnecessary one, and it just makes her look bad. It just makes her look bad. Voting president means the pro-Israeli freaks hate her anyway. Exactly.